Let's hope we can get through SHTF news before we get to break time, let alone do the trivia. So, SHTF news.
And now, the news. Stand by. In 3, 2, 1.
Here we are. Oh, I should have my glasses. Let's put my actual glasses on today. There we go. That's better. Hello, everybody, and welcome with your host, Andy, to today, the 4th of December, for the SHTF news, where we look at what's hitting the fan today around the world, starting off with top stories. So I think we should just bang straight into it, really, shouldn't we? I've given you the news on the new channel, so you should all know about that now. I'll probably mention it again later on for those joining us. So top stories, I mean, not top stories, but stories that are rocking around at the moment. The WHO has no reports yet of any Omicron deaths. So that's interesting, isn't it? And you'll see why I say it's interesting in light of what we're about to see everyone else talking about. You would think that the whole world is dying. So, UK tightens travel rules because of it, yeah? Apparently. And as I said last week, Barry, my good friend Barry, his new fiancée from America, who he met on this show, is coming over to the UK in December. So I'm kind of, in a couple of weeks' time, so I'm kind of concerned that they're going to start switching the rules up just before people get here and cause them a problem. So we've got all that going on at the moment, and they're talking about having to have PCR tests and stuff within 48 hours of travelling, and they have to test negative within 2 days of arriving. If they don't, they have to self-isolate. Oh, they have to self-isolate as well. So you've got all this stuff coming out. And again, I told everyone last year they would have the same routine again this year. It was already in the plan way ahead of time. So looks like everything's going according to that plan. And that plan was 10 years ago, don't forget. So up to 300,000 people facing heart-related illnesses due to post-pandemic stress disorder, warn physicians. This is just amazing. Yeah, what's the chances of that? All the stuff that suddenly people are all, you know, dropping down on football pitches and hockey pitches and rugby pitches because of, yeah, after having the you-know-what, is now, it turns out, these are the same, exactly the same symptoms as what happens if you get post-pandemic stress disorder. So that's a pretty good coincidence theory there, isn't it? Wow. So that's amazing. So what are the social distancing rules across the UK? So now this is a whole lecture basically on what you should and shouldn't do at Christmas parties. And ideally you should just avoid it and not have any family around. And if you do, you need to ask to see their vaccination record. You need to recommend that they wear a mask while you're indoors. And while you're indoors, you should also have all your windows open while your family are there. But you need to save energy by eating bugs and not eating meat because CO2. But put the heating on and open the window for ventilation because COVID to burn more CO2. You see? Amazing. So I'm not sure which they want me to do more. Save energy, not burn energy and let it fly out the window, or burn energy, let it fly out the window, wear a mask and not have heat in. I don't know. I mean, but that's the point, isn't it? As I've explained to people before, the whole point is to give you all these conflicting things, left, right, A, B, and then people get so confused they don't know what to do. So they just basically turn to the nearest representative of authority and just do whatever they say, even if it doesn't make any sense, because nothing else makes any sense either. Any more than this does. Zoo hippos test positive for COVID. Why are they still bothering with all this? Didn't the Tanzanian president already go through all this whole procedure like a year and a half ago now? Do you remember? And he tested all those things like a Pepsi bottle. Yeah, he tested the emu. He tested the engine oil. He tested some orange juice. He tested a pawpaw fruit, and every single one of them came back as positive. So why wouldn't a hippo? But the reason they tested it is because apparently, and I am not messing around, this is literally lich. Literally lich. It says they tested it because he had a runny nose. What? It had a runny nose, so thought better swab it. Yeah? Better, swab it. And sure enough, boom. So there you go. They better get that on some horse dewormer, innit? So, Maryland County revaccinate 70 children after giving them expired doses. So, having an expired dose is bad enough, but being called back to do it all over again, I imagine, is just adding insult to injury pun absolutely intended. So yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? And it's a little bit like in the controls. I don't know if you are aware, but there was that whole controversy, just lack of following standard protocols basically. But Pfizer did that thing where during the study you're supposed to have your placebo group and you're supposed to have the group that actually have it. And the people who were in the placebo control group, the people who don't have it, to see what happens to them in comparison to the people that do have it. When they got to the end of the trial, they called all the people back who were on the placebo trial, which means that's already not a double blind, right? Or, it already means... But anyway, they called them back because they said, oh, you'd been given a placebo, so therefore we need to now give you the actual one. And apparently that's one of the worst things you can ever do. It goes against all protocol because, of course, what it means now is that they no longer have any way of knowing what difference happens between the and the have, because they called all the people back that were the to have it. So now from that point onwards, which was like a week after the trial finished, they've got no way. This is probably why in that news report last week I showed you where they've now applied to the judge to pass it over so that they don't have to reveal the results of the study until 2074, was it? Or something like that, 2056 was it? I don't know. But most people basically who are having it now will be dead by the time you get to find out the results of the study. So that's interesting. And of course you will never find out the results of the study because you can't, because there is no control group left from that original study because they recalled them just like they've recalled these kids back. Amazing. So yeah. There's so many things that I just... Anyway, Germany effectively puts the unvaccinated on lockdown, bans them from nearly every aspect of public life. And of course, this isn't the first time that Germany's done this, don't forget. Back in the 1930s, a similar thing was rolled out, wasn't it? So it's not like the people are particularly, unfamiliar with these sorts of control measures. So Germany's announced that those who are unvaccinated against COVID-19 will be put on lockdown. Similar to what I reported on from Austria, last week. And Germany were included in that because we were looking at all those protests with the police, battening and macing people and stuff like that with their families out in the streets. Leaders in European nation indicating that they will support making the COVID jabs mandatory in the future. So this is what we've got to look forward to, basically. We have understood that the situation is very serious and that we want to take further measures in addition to those already taken. So if you thought it was bad already, you wait till you see what they got planned. I'll tell you what, on that note, actually, in Australia, I saw there was a guy reporting on there was a place that that builds UN troop carrier things, the white troop carriers. And he's been watching the satellite images over several months and it's going... It's gone from there being 3 to about 27 now. So, and that's in a space of 6 months. So they're ramping up. And that's just as they're making them and shipping them out, right? So, yeah. And don't forget, the United Nations is how they're going to do it all, because they won't be troops from your own country. There'll be no sympathy. There'll be no compassion. There'll be no nothing. Because these will be troops sent to your country from somewhere else, preferably a country that doesn't like you very much. Yeah? So... This is interesting. Unvaccinated travellers barred from planes and trains as of today. This is Ottawa. This is basically Canada. Got new restrictions coming out now. So anyone over the age of 12 won't be able to board a plane or train in Canada beginning today. So if you think you're going anywhere for the Christmas holidays to see Granny, think twice, Sonny Jim. Not unless you roll that sleeve up. So, yeah, COVID test is no longer going to serve as a substitute for most people. It's interesting, isn't it, for most people? Well, who's the people who aren't included in the most people? So the policy came into effect on October 30th, but the federal government allowed a short transition period, for unvaccinated travellers who could board as long as they provided a negative molecular COVID-19 test taken within 72 hours before their trip. But basically, you can't do that anymore, is what they're saying. It's jabberoo or nothing at all. It's jabberoo or you're walking. And they'll find some way to make it illegal to walk while unvaccinated as well, no doubt. And then that'll get around the people that think, fuck it, I'll just walk rather than going on a train. And then they go, no, we've got a new law. Anyone caught walking who hasn't got the you-know-what goes to jail. Well, it's not jail, it's those quarantine camps they've been building in Canada and Australia and everywhere else around the world that they don't seem to want to tell people about, innit? So a bit of Brandon here. What's he been up to? Officially admits that Dr. Fauci is actually president, but all kidding aside, I sincerely mean it. And yes, indeed, this is indeed. I'll probably need to get the desktop audio on for this one, shouldn't I? There we go. Let's see what he's got to say for himself.
If there's any audience in the world I should be standing for, it's you. Not you standing for me, but thank you very much. Good afternoon. You know, in February, I came out here to the National Institute of Health and at NIH and to our Vaccine Research Center to thank all of you, the world-class doctors, scientists, researchers, for the incredible work you've done during the pandemic and developing vaccines, saving lives, giving us hope. Also continuing to give me advice on developments as they occur. I've seen more of Dr. Fauci than I have my wife. We kid each other, but they look, who's president? Fauci. But all kidding aside, I sincerely mean it.
So there you go. Like I say, people have been calling out a long time, haven't they? It's like, who's making decisions here? It's like, trust the science, trust the science. You listen to the experts, but again, when you want to get any actual information or links to any of these alleged studies that show this and prove that it's just hot air, yeah? So you start asking yourself the question, who's checking the people that are supposed to be these experts? And when you look at all these experts and who they're funded by and where their funding comes from, you think, well, they're not experts, are they? They're just advocates for a particular thing because of where all what their job relies on. You know, it's amazing. So he's just saying it how it is, basically. So people are getting vaccine passport microchips embedded in their hands as COVID advances the Internet of Bodies. So it's taking it one step further. It's interesting. It goes on to say here about in Sweden, they've enacted rules that require individuals to have a passport at all events with more than 100 people, and they've been rolling them out for quite a while. It says here about 6,000 people in Sweden have had chip inserted in their hands since 2014. So they're right into it. And I've got a theory that suggests that they're not going to need to have that chip in their hand if they've had the you-know-what, because of the nanoparticles in the you-know-what can be read by the right frequency detector throughout the body as a ventricular system, as a fingerprint, not of your finger, but of your ventricular system and your vein system. Wasn't going to really mention that, but it's the same technology that I would use as a prototyping engineer. It already exists. So that's interesting. As soon as I found out there was those same things in the you-know-what, it was quite clear that was going to be the new biometric ID system. You wouldn't need a chip. You are the chip. Your entire body reflection ID is it. And it's perfect. Especially having done a lot of work with biometric security stuff like fingerprint readers. I've done a lot of work with them. I've done work with RFID readers. Remember last year I showed you the RFID chip inside and the coil and everything, how it works. And I would do the same thing, because if you can use the nanoparticular, they're basically like a magnetic nanoparticle, yeah? And it goes around the system, or it goes around all your veins and everything, right? And it collects in all the tiny blood vessels and things, not the big arteries as well. But if you've ever seen one of those pictures of the skeletal system, the vascular system, the muscular system, and you see the veins, it just looks like lightning everywhere. Well, if you imagine, like, you know, when you see those the hospital things that scan you, they put that stuff in your blood and it shows up on the scans, right? Well, it's like that in the same way as they have those palm readers. It shines light through and it basically maps your veins in your hands, because they don't change very much. And so if you scale that up, if you can have some way of basically illuminating people's ventricular system, their vein system, that is about as unique idea as you can get. And the great thing about it is that if you think about it with fingerprints, it's a bit of a tricky thing because you can't read it from a distance. You have to be touching it. The other thing about fingerprints is you can just cut someone's finger off, right? Hold on, let me jump into a proper screen here so we can talk about this properly. Because I was never going to talk about this, but let's just do it now. So I think this is really important to know because this is basically what's going on, right? So if you wanted to do fingerprint reading, that's all very well and good. But the problem is you have to be up close to it and you have to touch it, right? Whereas, and the same with like retina scan, you can scan it from a distance, but you still need the other person to be sort of working with you, let's say, right? And things like fingerprint scans, though, you can replicate somebody's fingerprint. You can cut someone's finger off if you wanted to, right? Now, the thing about highlighting someone's ventricular system with some form of nanoparticle, sort of like magnetic nanoparticle, is, and if you have a detector the same frequency, you can basically get a map of their vein system, the same as you would get a map of their fingerprint, but you can do it from a distance, right? So think like mobile phone tower kind of distance. You can read from that distance if the antennas are able to tune directionally, which the new tech is able to do, ironically, right? But the point being is that the great thing about it for them is the fact that you can't cheat it, you can't imitate it, you can't replicate it. You can't lend someone your ventricular system to go down the shop to buy your goods for you, can you? Right? You can detect it from a long distance away. Your own mobile phone has already got the technology inside it to know that you are you from that reflection from your body, yeah, with the way that it showed the stuff that's in the stuff, yeah, illuminates, but not in a luminescent way, but illuminates your ventricular system from a magnetic point of view, which obviously electromagnetic field, EMF, is the way that you scan stuff anyway, right? So it's not a coincidence. And you can read that, and everybody has their own very unique ventricular system, and a little bit like a QR code. For those that don't know, when you see a QR code, you can lose about 60%, maybe 40 to 60% of that QR code data, and it can still be read. So it's built in with redundancy so that you don't need the entire thing to be perfectly intact. If it's a little bit damaged, or there's a bit of the ink come off, or it's scratched a bit, a QR code's resilient to about 40% data loss, and it will still resolve the link or whatever the QR code was originally supposed to do. This system I'm talking about has a similar quality, because even if you cut someone's arm off, the rest of the ventricular system that it could read remotely, wirelessly, would all match in anyway. If you were holding your device in your hand, the vein system in your hand that would illuminate would be enough for it to know it was you, just holding it, right? So, and the same as in your chest, it would only need to see a part of you to know it was you. So that's basically one of the possible kind of things, because all of that technology already exists, and because I've already worked on a lot of that technology myself and developed stuff like that as an electronic engineer. I think to myself, if I wanted to create the best possible, most unhackable, unfuckwithable ID biometric system, then that's the system that I would use. And I did a report on that about 5-6 years ago, when things like RFID systems started becoming more and more mainstream, yeah. Comparing all of the different biometric ID methods. So let's just say I wouldn't be surprised if that's why they're so absolutely obsessed, and I mean obsessed, with getting it into everyone, because their entire tracking system isn't going to work without it. So this is interesting. I think it's important to show both sides of the story. So you've got matey boy here from the WHO, is a scientist from the WHO, saying the vax should all be quarantined to protect the purebloods, basically. And if you watch the video there on BootShoot, he will show all the reasons why, and it's obviously all packed with all the usual stuff, all the evidence, the files, the reports, the doctors' testimonies, and all of their credentials as well. So that's an interesting one to watch. But of course, you're never going to see that on the mainstream now, are you? So 2022, is when biometric payment cards will go mainstream. So again, on the biometric front, this is why I keep mentioning it, because it's happening all the time. Every time I look in here, there's a new company who's done a new deal with a new government doing something rather to do with tracking shit. So here we go, an increasing number of pilots and now commercial rollouts of biometric payment cards, plus the development of standards all point to secure and contact payment method going mainstream as soon as 2022, according to a new report, so on and so on. So, and again, when you look into this company, you see how many other deals they've signed with how many other companies. And again, MasterCard are right in there with their own systems as well that they're doing. You can see here in this next story, in fact, MasterCard plans to supply infrastructure for the cross-border digital ID. And it talks about here a lot between the Australia, New Zealand and things like that. And the idea of it is the agreement having a synchronization of data, compatibility. So basically all the stuff that they want to know about you in Australia and all the stuff they want to know about you in New Zealand is sort of like synchronized so that you can float between the two. And so this is part of their borderless digital identity and interoperability. So national systems are still establishing themselves and working with their private sectors on use cases and integration, but countries such as Australia and New Zealand are already discussing how to make their digital ID work in each other's countries, while MasterCard is planning to handle cross-border digital ID as soon as 2022. So yeah, we've already got Australia and Singapore entering into dialogue and things like that. So this is basically what they're planning behind the scenes. And you know, and of course it goes on about how much convenience and wonderful greatness it will be for everybody as the user. It's like, yeah. So Yachty discusses digital identity to use to monitor food and cash rations. This is a good example of how it will be used, because they roll it out in places like this first under the guise of it being for humanitarian helping people purposes. But so specifically, the initial piece looks at the potential benefit of using digital ID technologies to monitor food and cash rations in northern Mozambique. And then what they're talking about is these camps. And it's interesting because it says here about having a database. Where was it? Well, it talked about a database that's offline or something like that. Where's that? Here we go. The system proposed by Yachty would also enable sharing of databases between camps, enabling people to be identified and authenticated if they decided to move from one camp to another, or if they are displaced again in the future. But it talks about how it's held offline. So it's like, how are they sharing databases between camps if they're offline databases? It doesn't make any sense. But they're talking about this solution, because of course the problem reaction solution, all that. A solution proposed by Yachty would enable individuals to register their names, photographs and fingerprint biometrics into an offline database. There it is. As many of them are unlikely to have IDs due to having fled their homes. But that's all right, we can fix that. If you haven't got an ID, step up, roll up, shut up, put up, shut up. So yeah, that's basically what they're doing, is rolling these sort of digital IDs out for rationing. And of course this will be the same if they pull all the grid down, they pull everything else down, they pull the supply chains down, and they roll out some form of martial law. That's what it will look like, won't it? It will be like, you know, people turning up with their buckets near a little military tanker for their bucket of water and their rations of rice and sugar and whatever, flour, whatever you get in. And of course, the only way you're going to be handed over anything is if you first hand over your ID that probably some company like Yachty has been involved in enslaving people into. So, you know, this is how it's going to roll out, isn't it? And then, you know, if you're not part of the system, then you won't be part of the system, and that'll be that. And they'll make it as difficult as possible, like they already are. So government step up digital identity for public services, digital economy participation. This is again on the same front. Look, digital identity apps and wallets for government services are expanding around the world. And so this talks a lot about how they want to be rolling into, and again, MasterCard deeply involved in all of this, yeah. And rolling into the whole thing with being able to fill out all your forms and digitally sign documents that are like legal documents or forms or medical documents, stuff like that. And so they talk about the biometric sort of digital identity side of it here, with how they want to come up with some system that all the governments can use interoperably to be able to share all your personal stuff. But more, it does seem to be more focused on sort of combining it into more of an all-in-one digital ID system, basically. So yeah, couple of interesting ones before we get on to the rest of the disaster news. Before we finish out on the top stories, we've got the New York chief medical officer who ruled Epstein killed himself resigns the first day of the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. Not surprising when you see the stuff that's come out on that, and of course they do mention in here how none of it makes any sense with I think they even referenced the bone. Do you remember there was that particular bone that was broken, and the only way you can break that bone pretty much is if you're strangled, not from a suicide. I forget what it's called, the bone's name, but I remember researching that at the time, and it didn't make any sense at all as anyone else who looked into it at the time, hence the whole meme of, you know, who didn't kill himself, right? That's where it comes from. Where did it? I'm sure it said here something about questions remain. Blame cannot be cast. Epstein didn't kill himself. When also reviewing a series of coincidental irregularities in the days leading up to Epstein's death, it became painfully obvious that conjecture only arises from believing that a 6-foot man who denied he had attempted suicide and was described just hours earlier as in great spirits, knotted a thinly ripped bedsheet around his neck, leveraged it underneath, then rigged it on top of his bunk frame, and then proceeded to generate enough force to break his hyoid bone. That was it. The hyoid bone. Couple this alongside subsequent mishandlings of fallout related to Epstein's death. Serious questions are posed as to the respect for due process throughout Metropolitan Correctional Centre. And of course, there was all the stuff about the fact the cameras happened to be offline. The dude who was supposed to be looking over him happened to be asleep. And the dude who was his officer, the other officer, was also happened to be asleep. And it was just like, wow. So, anyway. Old news now, innit? But it's not, because of course it's all in the news, and there will be a question on that for the Truth or Trivia coming up soon. So don't miss that for the Epstein stuff, right? Since it's obviously rocking in the news right now. IMF warning of economic collapse should get headlines, but of course it never would. They don't want you to be warned. They don't want people to spend any of their money if they're going to crash it. Same as they did in Cyprus when they said the day before, or was it Greece? They said that on the Friday, don't worry about it, it's all going to be fine. And then Monday, they crashed it all, so people couldn't get the money out of the bank. They knew Friday it was going to be crashed on the Sunday, but they purposely told everyone it was going to be okay, the bankers, so that they didn't draw their money out, because of course that would then definitely crash it. So yeah, basically goes on about how, I mean, not that you need to be told that if you can't work out the economy is going to collapse. It already collapsed in 2008, yeah? It never recovered. Everything you've seen since 2008, 2009 has been just wallpaper and can kicking down Fire-Nite-lengthed alleyways, right? And the Fire-Nite-ness of the alleyways are only just starting to be realised now. That's all that's happening. Yeah. All currencies die after about 70 years usually. So, yeah. We're way overdue. And of course you can't reset the economy without having first pulled down the existing one. It's just not how it works. Yeah. So yeah, that leads us out of the top stories. So I hope you enjoyed the top stories for the 4th of December. I'll just make sure everybody's the agenda we want. Make sure everybody's happy in the chat. And yeah, looking good. Looking happy. Always a joy. So that was the top stories. Let's go straight into the disaster maps then. Let's just close this window down so my system doesn't completely die. I told you there's a lot to get through, and there's so much I can't show you. This is the problem. I wish I could show you all the real stuff that's going on around the world as well, but again, we'll have to figure something else out for that. Maybe that's where Odyssey can come in, right? So anyway, let's get into the disaster maps. And we'll see what's been going on. I'll tell you, there's quite a few things going on, more than just the usual. So, of course, LaPalma, we've still got rocking. I've been looking at the quakes at LaPalma over the last week. I very nearly did a live show on the new channel, SHTF News, to highlight my concerns of that. But when it got to the evening time, I did start to see it dying down. I thought, I don't want to sort of inadvertently worry people, particularly those on the East Coast over here, those that have seen the animation simulations of the tsunami that volcano can cause. But like I say, we'll have a look in a minute. But it did start calming down a bit. But I noticed there's some other things going on here. We've got a new volcano in Ecuador that we're going to look at. This Sangay one here. You'll see, I think I've got it, put it down in the ticker here as well. And then there's another one in Indonesia, over in the Java, Central Java, and near Bali. So let's have a look and see what's going on with those here then. But first of all, check in on the quakes. I'll just give you a quick refresh. 41 quakes. I must say, when those quakes were ramping up around LaPalma, this itself was up to about 60. At the moment it says 41. And it did indeed do exactly, funnily enough, as I said it was going to do the week before. Remember when there was that quake and I said this could be the sign of the usual ring of fire circulation, where you get one kickoff that's somewhat deep or large and it travels around the ring of fire, and that's exactly what happened. Yeah, quite uncanny. And this is something that a lot of people, YouTubers that I followed over time, I've learned from. There's a lot of them that aren't even online anymore. Suspicious Observers are still going, but it doesn't do earthquakes as much as, what's his name? Oh no, I can't remember, I've forgotten his name. Dutch Since. I learned a lot from Dutch Since, but he's not as active anymore. At least I don't get notifications for him anymore. So we'll have a look at the earthquakes for LaPalma. And the reason I was going to go live with this on the new channel, the Ultimate Live Show, is because where it says here 9 quakes magnitude 3 or above and 21 quakes between 2 and 3, I took a screenshot of this and it had something like 258 quakes of magnitude 3 and above or something like that, or was it 110 and 258 quakes between 2 and 3. It was absolutely crazy. But I was looking at this with the depth chart here of the actual the depth chart here of the earthquakes, and you could see it was back here, if you can see the mouse cursor, where this massive earthquakes is about where I was going to sort of bring a live sort of update for you. And I did see it starting to peter out, but it was more the fact that I could see it moving upwards. And now you see very recently here, you've got this one at the very top. That looks like the shallowest earthquake we've had for a long time. That's less than 5 kilometers deep. So we're at sort of we're at fracking quake depth levels now. And I did say several weeks ago when I first started reporting on this, when we start seeing these quake signatures getting higher and higher. So bear in mind what I'm showing you here. This is like a cross section, yeah, looking through the core of the earth, and so this represents the depth of the quake. And this one up here is a bit anomalous. It's an anomaly statistically, yeah. So there's reason to have sort of caution again. But like I say, the quakes themselves have actually died down. But I will say that if it dies down too much and appears to stop, then we have to be worried about there being some sort of something sticking and pressure building over time. So we need to watch out that these don't completely die off, because that could be a sign that it's building up its energy. And when I start seeing those quakes raising in shallower and shallower depths, something's on its way up. And usually what comes out from the thing that's on its way up isn't pretty. So we'll keep our eye on that. And here's the live stream of what's going on. There's not much to see. The new camera angle here, because of the new tongues of lava that have been developing, it has taken a few more houses and warehouses out, though, I noticed. But the statistics down the bottom, the 66 cubic meters per second ejector and things like that, seem to be reasonably consistent from what they were week on week. So either they don't change these data down the bottom or something. So yeah, that's the live feed coming straight in from there. And then we've got this high level eruption at Semeru, the one in Indonesia I mentioned. You're talking, look at that, 15-kilometer high ash in the air. Yeah, 50,000 feet. So higher than 747s can fly. They cap out about 34,000 feet or something like that. 38,000 feet, is it? So yeah, you're not flying over that, but check it out. It looks absolutely epic. I watched a couple of these. I didn't see all of them, but check it out. We've got sound.
Oh ya Allah, Buri Allah. Allahu Akbar.
Look at that chasing you down the hill, man.
Astagfirullah.
Look at the scale of it.
Wah, 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 wah. Ya Allah.
Look at him running.
Wah, ya Allah, buri Allah.
And the funny thing is deceiving because it looks like it's moving so slowly, but it's so massive beyond comprehension that it just looks like it's going slowly, but in reality that is
Wah, 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 wah. Ya Allah.
that is not a good scene. And the problem as well that happens, you see, is just everything gets clogged up, right? It causes problem with the infrastructure, causes problem with the crops, with the ash that falls, it causes problems landing on people's roofs. And if you look at the roofs that we're talking about here, check out these buildings, right? This is like a very simple construction type area here in Indonesia. This is the Indonesian one, isn't it? I hope so. The simple house construction with this corrugated iron. And believe me, that corrugated iron isn't going to take a lot of weight. So similarly, in the wintertime, when you have certain places that have problems with snowfall, the weight builds up on the roof and collapses the roof in, you get a similar problem with volcano ash. We've seen that in LaPalma, where people's roofs have been collapsing because they haven't been getting the ash off the roof. As it builds up, it's quite heavy, right? So yeah, bad news has got, and you can see here, on top of that, you end up, this is basically turns night into day. Yeah? Literally night into day. And then here's what I mean about where it starts coming back down again. You end up with this nasty, nasty slush. Look at his windscreen. It's just impossible to see or anything. It's just so dangerous. So now you end up dealing with all sorts of motor vehicle accidents, people getting stuck in mud slides, and obviously it's not just mud, it's pyroclastic flow ash. Yeah, it's nasty. And those people that are putting their windscreen wipers on, what they don't know yet is that ash from the volcano typically trumps glass. So when you're windscreen wipering, windshield wipers, what you're doing is sandpapering, abrasing your glass, right? It's just nasty. It just destroys everything. And it's just impossible to clear up. Look at the state of it. Not to mention the health impacts as well, with the inhalation. And you got roads taken down. Just nasty, nasty, nasty. And just where do you even start rebuilding? So you got that going on in Indonesia, near Bali. You can see here, it shows the weather of it, but I think Bali's here somewhere where Magic Hand and I have been. Don't think we went to Java. So that's that. And then we got Sangay Volcano. Sorry, that is, yeah, so the last one was the one in Indonesia, yeah. And then this Sangay Volcano is the one that's in Ecuador, right? And so this isn't the same one. So don't be confused. There's loads popping off all over the place. This is another one. And again, 50,000 foot shooting up in the air. And this talks more about the explosive event. And you can see here on the graph, it's just epic. In fact, it's not even a slow starting signature. Usually that's more like a nuclear bomb test signature looking thing, that is. But yeah, so clearly it's a time of earth changes. Yeah, there's a lot popping off. So we've got a tropical cyclone Jawad forms in the Bay of Bengal, and I reckon that will hit and it will cause some disruption, particularly because we're in a new moon. And a new moon is going to have an extra effect on the tidal surges that they see up through the east coast there, which is going to cause a big problem for some of these regions, and bring with it a very heavy rainfall, gusty winds with speed picking up to 68, 70 mile an hour between the mornings of Saturday and Sunday. So you've got that incoming. Storm surge of about 0.5 to 1 metre above astronomical tide is likely to inundate low-lying areas of coastal districts. And of course it says here, with December 4th being a new moon day, higher astronomical tides of about 2 to 4 metres height are likely along the coast. And this is usually what happens. You get a cascade of events which all lead up to things being worse than they normally would be. So people are obviously hoping that doesn't completely flood out. They're already talking about having lost how many thousands of acres of farmland or something as a result. So yeah, we'll hope that doesn't get too much worse there. And then we got severe floods in Vietnam, 18 dead at least. Death tolls confirmed. The worst affected was Phu Yen with 10 fatalities. You got nearly 60,000 homes flooded in Vietnam. Flood waters reached up to 1.2 meters. So that's like nearly 4 foot. So you're properly up to chest height there. Up to neck height if you're a Vietnamese. They tend to be slightly shorter. So yeah, it's going on everywhere, isn't it? Look, check it out. Wouldn't want to be there right now. Let's check out some footage here. Look. Yeah, it's looking... She's grumpy. See what I mean about all these landslides and things as well. Got all that problem and carving out where the rain's run down. So hopefully that'll be subsiding now. So let's have a quick finish up on the disaster map. We'll check out the windy map and see what's going on. I did have a brief look. You've got a little bit coming off LaPalma here. Doesn't look like there's anything severe. We're looking at the SO2 levels of the air quality here. However... looks like over here in Mexico City, I think this is coming from. Looks like we've got something going on. I guess this is just smog from, you know, the typical... I guess I'd have to look into that further, but that's an anomaly. Let's just check the levels, see if it's more than 70 odd. Yeah, 200 odd. So that's bad news. That's in Mexico City or whatever. So yeah, and there's a few regions around here as well. Got this one here in Jeddah. 265. So I didn't see anything coming from the area here though. This is... no, that's not where we've just been looking at. I wondered if we saw anything coming out of the volcano around the Java, central Java region. It's not looking too epic, is it? So yeah, I'd be interested to know what's going on here though. In Mexico City. That's quite epic if that's just literally pollution, air pollution. So yeah, that is the disaster map. So we'll be getting onto space weather. And we should have already gone to break. I knew it was going to be a big one. So let's check out space weather and see what the sun's got in store for us. I'll just close that last window down so we can save some room. And see what Solarham's got in store. And I can tell you now, I was going to say there's not much going on, but look at that. It looks like something's happening now. Look. That's interesting. So this is happening right now. I was going to say there's nothing going on, but this looks like it's on the way up to B&M. So it's currently a C 7.0 class flare, which isn't anything to worry about, but it looks like it's going straight up into the M region. So let's have a quick look. This can take some time to enter into new regions. So we'll just go back quickly and see what there is. It doesn't look like we've got anything particularly facing us though. So sun facing. We've got this 2902, but I'm not sure it's particularly... let's go back here and pull it off from there. And it's only a beta class look, so it couldn't have come from that. We need alpha, beta, gamma mix to be able to have it as being an active. So doesn't look like it's going to be Earth facing then. It's probably this one off the side here again. Is that the 2898 there? Yeah. And again, it doesn't look like that should be particularly active. Doesn't look like it's expecting anything. No noteworthy events. So maybe we're too early. So it might have to remind me to check back on that later in the show tonight and see if we can see anything when it's finished building up. But like I say, even if it's epic, there's nothing on the Earth facing side of the disk particularly that I would think would be anything that could cause anything epic. So, but we'll keep our eye on that anyway. But other than that, green bill of health along the top there, look, on all metrics. So, and the Enlil spiral here showing us not really much planning to be coming in. Look, we've got a slight increase in the radial velocity here, but that's about it. And we'll see what we've got coming up once this current, whatever this thing's doing right now, is going to do. It looks like it's going back down again already, look. Don't know if you can see that, but it does look... It won't even let me zoom in, will it? No. Okay. Worth a try. Let's go back to normal. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's going to let me zoom in on that, so... But it did look like it was going back down. But we'll keep our eye on that and see what, if anything, happens. But other than that, looks like the sun's totally fine, to be honest. I don't think we really need to worry too much about that. So let's jump into cyberspace, economics and cryptos, and we're done. So cyberspace, let's get in there and see... What do we want? We want this one, that one, and those that are already subscribed to the new, to the brand new Ultimate Live Show channel. You would have seen this latest video I did this morning. In fact, 15 hours ago it says, with the Bitcoin crashing, where I was basically broadcasting live as it was happening. We were looking at the if I can get back to the right page, we were looking at the sea of red basically as it was happening, and it dropped about 15% in a few hours. It got down to $42,000. It's back up to 49 now. We were hovering around 50 odd, 50. Well, we obviously won 60 odd not that long ago, and so it was an absolute, just a disaster sea of red. And you can see here on a total market cap, this drop, boom, all the way down. So this is actual money leaving the space. And there's a few reasons for it, which I alluded to in that live show video last night, this morning. It felt like last night to me because I hadn't even been to sleep. It was like before 8 o'clock in the morning, just before 8 o'clock in the morning, and I hadn't even slept. So, but I did report on that at the time, and there was a few things going on. But again, there is a time of year, this time of year, where people take their profits before Christmas and they take their investments out of crypto, keep them in sort of fiat currency, and then when people go back next season in January, they'll reinvest in whatever cryptos. Not everyone, but a few people do that at a certain time of year, where it happens every year around December. So it's partly that. There's also some other things going on in the space as well, but you can watch that video on the new Ultimate Live Show dedicated channel, and it'll give you a bit more of an update. But yeah, we did look into that. Says here, Bitcoin price tumbles after Wall Street sell-off. Of course, when I was reporting on this morning, it was literally happening live. I was showing you the candles on the trading thing, showing how much it had fallen in the last hour before it had taken me to get my system set up online for you. So yeah, was down by as much as 20%, hitting its lowest point in months. And there was a bit of a sell-off in the stock markets as well, but it did seem somewhat coordinated, and the reason being is because, as I found here, 3 on-chain signs that flashed shortly before Bitcoin's $16,000 daily crash. It was like a whoop, 16 grand in a day. It was less than a day. Like I say, I saw it happening. It was like within, in fact, you can see it here. It's like literally a straight line, straight down. it's not even curved at all, right? But what's interesting is if you understand sort of blockchain trading and analytics and trading analysis and things like that, and sort of blockchain metrics, then you can see what they're saying here about some of the suspicious activity. Not suspicious in terms of hacking or anything like that, but just in terms of things being set up with large numbers of like Bitcoin currencies being moved, ready to be exchanged on the exchanges. That's usually an indication. So there's some stuff like that. And then again, here the indicator tends to stay below 85%. In the bear market, it drops below 85%. So the minute it hit that point, it triggered a load of other things, you see. But what did happen was El Salvador bought the dip, right? So when it went down, it did actually reach $42,000. But the minute it went down, it dropped 16,000 off the price. El Salvador, as a country, the president jumped in there and bought 150 Bitcoin worth 7.3 million buckaroonies. So they've probably done all right on that, because they've already made money, don't forget. What are we back up to now? We're all the way up to 49,000. So El Salvador has already made money on that. But they're quite an open adopter of the, digital currencies, cryptocurrencies, basically, as a business, as a country. Well, same thing in it, corporation. So it's safe to say that El Salvador is the most bullish country on Bitcoin, as it legalized the primary cryptocurrency early this year. So they've adopted it wholeheartedly, and of course they've seen that opportunity to grab an absolute bargain at 48,500 this morning. Probably would have been roughly when I was doing that live show. They thought, right, let's have it. And off they went. So that was what happened this morning. And like I say, there's more, there's more information on that if you want it on the Ultimate Live Show channel, the dedicated channel for this show, and the SHTF news weekly or daily. Every other day I'm hoping to do the SHTF news from the new channel. And it's not monetized, so there won't be any adverts or anything like that. So I need to get that built up in the background so I can separate things off, and then we can have a nice happy time and in our own safe space. In our own safe space, amazing. So that was that wasn't the cyberspace, that was space weather. We did economics before cyberspace, but it's okay. So we'll do the cyberspace now. So we want this one, and boom. And it's a reasonably quiet day again, really quiet. 1.5 billion attacks to the UK, which is the top of the list. 1.42 billion to the United States, way below what I normally see. Although attack origins are largely concentrated coming from the USA, 5.5 million attacks from the USA. But other than that, it's looking all right. There's been some internet outages due to things like ice on power lines, floods, earthquakes, you name it. But in terms of, and you can see here, we've got quite a few things going on right now. Look, Discord's having some problems. We're over here on a Downdetector, giving us live outage reports. It's funny, isn't it? We always see the gaming entities struggling on a Saturday night. Is that a wonder? But other than that, it's looking all right. What was that one there? You've got some video there. So very much gaming. I did see actually YouTube was having some problems, but it looks like they're getting over it. It's not red anymore, so that's all right. So yeah, and that brings us to the end of our fabulous What's Hitting the Fan SHTF news for the 4th of December 2021 with your host Andy. So I hope you enjoyed it and had a good time. So thank you all for your support. And in the meantime, let's go back to the Christmas house, isn't it? Yes, we're in the Christmas living room. So let's get back there. Thank you very much.